Afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of Finance Committee to order. As is customary and prudent and traditional, we will start this meeting of Finance Committee with a prayer. I've asked the Leader of the Opposition if he would grace us with a prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Shall we pray? Almighty God, our eternal Father in heaven, as we assemble here today to be and to do and complete the business of this Finance Committee, I'm grateful, Father, for the opportunity to be here, to be completing the work of the government and doing things that are beneficial for the good of the country. I pray, Father, that you will bless our deliberations today. May all that we do and say be done decently and in order. Grace us with your presence and give us your blessings, we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Colleagues, the Parliament is now in committee, specifically Finance Committee. The purpose of this meeting of Finance Committee is to consider the items shown on the schedule to the supplementary appropriation bill for the financial year ended 31 December 2023. Given that the number of members of Parliament is 19 and the quorum of Finance Committee is 10 members, excluding myself as chair, the committee, based on my hard look around, is quorate, and we can proceed with the meeting. We will now look at supplementary appropriations for the financial year that ended 31 December 2023. These will have explanatory details which commence on page 15 in the supplementary plan and estimates document, which is tabled in the House earlier. I can distribute to honorable members a schedule to the bill annotated with page reference numbers to the supplementary plan and estimates document, but I'm trusting that won't be necessary for reasons I am about to provide. The overwhelming majority of the supplementary appropriations shown on the schedule to the bill are in respect of budget changes that have already been approved by Cabinet under Section 11.5 of the PMFA, and for which statements have been made in Parliament explaining the necessity and urgency of most of the items, and supplementary appropriation changes that have been approved by Finance Committee itself previously at its meetings in June and September of 2023 under Section 12, subsection 2 of the Act. We are, in essence, colleagues, here to perform a legal administrative formality. I'm therefore hopeful that we can dispense with these items at pace. To briefly summarize for colleagues the results of the financial year ended 31 December 2023. Brief summary is as follows. For that year, the core government experienced a surplus of 32 million, which can be found in Table 1 on page 10 in the supplementary plan and estimates document for 2023. This satisfies the framework for fiscal responsibility requirement that government achieves a surplus each financial year. The government's net worth at 31 December 2023 was 2.2 billion, which complies with the requirement for the core government's net worth to be positive. This is also on Table 1, page 10 of the supplementary plan and estimates document. The debt service ratio was 8.3%, which is well within the allowable upper limit of 10% of core government revenue. This is shown on page 12 of the supplementary plan and estimates document. Net debt was 4.1% of core government revenue, which is well below the allowable upper limit of 80%. And cash reserve days were 158 days, which were materially greater than the 90-day minimum. Both those details are also shown on page 12 of the supplementary plan estimates document. Colleagues, the results for financial year 2023 incorporate the appropriation changes that are laid out in the bill, meaning that the supplementary expenditures have enabled certain expenditure levels to have been incurred, and those actual expenditure levels have led to the results that I've just provided. This means that honorable members can rest assured that approving these supplement items will not further change the unaudited financial results, which I've just mentioned, as these supplementary items have already been factored in to the unaudited financial results provided. Changes to these unaudited financial results that I've just previously stated, such as the operating surplus for core government of $32 million for 2023, would come from the audit process itself. Informally, prior to the meeting, I had a word with some members, and I don't think, but I'm happy to stand corrected, that we're in a position to block vote the entire schedule. But you can delight me with a surprise, Mr. Leader. No, but I think that there may be some portions as we proceed through the schedule that we might be able to do mini blocks. Thank you. In that case, so that colleagues and members of the public and those in the chamber can follow along, we will proceed in the order as set out in the schedule of the bill, which starts on page 5. With that context and outline, I'll proceed from page 5, the schedule of the bill, which are appropriations to the Premier.
Mr. Chairman, before we actually do it, can I just ask a couple of questions? One question really, but I was really surprised when we had those section 11.5 statements being made today, 6 months after the end of the year. Can we get some assurance that all of these statements have been now made?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Leader. I'm advised that with the inclusion of the statements that were made in this meeting, we now have all 11.5 statements made.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions?
And you're working off of the schedule? Okay.
Yes, sir. Page 5 starts the schedule of within the bill.
Go ahead and put pages 5 and 6 to the block.
Honorable members, I wish to put to the vote just a moment. Mr. Leader, with apologies, it appears that there is, I'm advised, one outstanding 11.5 statement in relation to the Ministry of Health and Wellness and Home Affairs. The Honorable Financial Secretary has mentioned that if you... Sorry. Thank you, colleagues. Mr. Leader, there appears that there was an attempt to submit additional 11.5 statements today that were not read. So what the Honorable Financial Secretary has advised is that when we get to those particular items, if we could allow the ministers to give an explanation here in Finance Committee, and then perhaps as a formality, then read their statements in the House when the House resumes.
That seems like a practical approach and solution to it, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to dig up.
Mr. Chair,
But I was concerned that
if I dare say in this honorable committee, as we are not in the House, members would recall that earlier this morning I raised the importance of the government statements in business and the importance of allowing all statements to be done. Now we're in this predicament where a member has not been able to deliver a statement and we're about to be asked questions on it. So I just want to put that on record as to what problem has been created as a result.
Thank you, Acting Deputy Premier. The only thing I'd say to qualify is at the moment we're not able to determine whether or not there were the statements that the Speaker actually had in hand or if they haven't actually been delivered to the Speaker yet. So in fairness to the Speaker, I think we've resolved a reasonable way forward. I appreciate the Leader of the Opposition. It seems like members have tacit support for that practical resolution. So what I would impress upon the members who have not delivered Section 11.5 statements, be very cognizant of the item that it relates to in the schedule, because this is your time to make the explanation, as we've been allowed an indulgence by the opposition. Say no more afterwards. Right. So to return to the schedule of the bill, page 5, do I hear that we may be able to block vote the items on pages 5 and 6?
from our perspective here from the official opposition, I'm just mindful that we have two other members as well that need to be considered.
For the member for Newlands and the member for Bodden Town West, I see smiles. I will therefore take us through. Honorable members, I wish to vote all those in favor of CBO 9 protocol service says 185,000 forming part of the schedule to the bill. CBO 17 government communication services, which is a decrease of 185,000 forming part of the bill, and EI 36 cabinet office 300,000 forming part of the bill. Over the page, SCR 1 policy advice to the Minister on the development and coordination of sustainability and climate resiliency initiatives in the amount of $2,940,000 on part of the bill. SCR 3 environmental services and research 387,500 form part of the bill. TP 110, Sustainability Program Support, with a decrease of 115,000 forming part of the bill. TP 111, Climate Resiliency Program, it's a decrease of 348,000 form part of the bill. And EI 84, Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency, the decrease of 5,437,347 form part of the bill. And EA 165, Georgetown Landfill Remediation Works, in the amount of 2,272,847 form part of the bill. Please, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Proceeding on to page 7 of the schedule to the bill, appropriations to the Minister of Finance and Economic Development. Output groups, FED 1, Policy Advice, Governance, and Ministerial Support Services, in the amount of decrease of 2,100,000. Are there any questions? Take that as a no, and maybe did I ask, are there any questions further on page 7?
Mr. Chairman, I have questions on OE 110 for 4.2 million. But that's the only one that I have questions on.
Okay. In that case, I'll just read out FED1. Honorable members, I wish to put to the vote all those in favor of FED1, Policy Advice and Governance and Ministerial Support Services, at a decrease of 2,100,000, form part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. The ayes have it. In respect of FED5, I believe we have a question from the member for Badentown West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to you, Mr. Chairman. Just an update on where we are with the new government reporting system or the new budget reporting system.
Sorry, member, my apologies. Could you repeat the question one more time?
Yes. Just an update on where we are in terms of the budget reporting. We're looking at a new system before. Just get an update as to where we are with that, like what phase, and I know it was like a 5-year project, so I'm just trying to get an idea where we are so far.
Thank you, member. I'm going to ask the Senior Assistant Financial Secretary to identify himself and his post and to take the question.
Ann Owens.
Oh, with apologies, herself. I didn't see you there, Ann. You snuck in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the member. In January, we selected the consultant to assist us with the implementation of the project. We have been going through with them our current processes and procedures so that they can get a better understanding in order to develop the new framework that we're looking at. We are currently working with them along with the POCS, our portfolio of civil service, to look at our service inventories. We want to start to develop our service inventories, which will lead to our outcome-based budgeting. And it's also an exercise that the Deputy Governor also wants to undertake, because it will lead and implement his goals, strategic goals for the civil service. So we are in the process of working out the logistics for workshops so that we can implement across the civil service between August and October, where we can have our government agencies start to identify their services, start developing their performance measures for those services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Owen answered my second question, which would have been moving from output to outcome-based. So I just wanted to confirm, and which she did, that the public service is indeed moving to an outcome-based budget as opposed to output-based budget. So I'm cool. I'm good. And thanks for all the good work you guys have been doing, by the way.
That doesn't surprise me in the least, member. That is typical of Ms. Owen, being very comprehensive. Thank you. So if there aren't any other questions, I propose, honorable members, I wish to put to a vote that FED 5, Financial Reporting and Management Services, in the amount of a decrease of $1,401,497 form part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. The ayes have it. Colleagues, are there any questions from FED 10 up to OE 27? Doesn't appear so, so I will seek to do a mini block vote in that respect. Members, I wish to put to a vote FED 10, National Mail Services, in the amount of $100,000. CIN1, Health Insurance for seamen, even though I like to say seafarers, and veterans for primary and secondary health care, the amount of a decrease of $1 million. OE10, Caribbean Regional Technical Assistance Center contribution in the amount of $10,500, and OE27, past service pension liability payment in the amount of $2,067,997, all forming part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. The ayes have it. In relation to OE 110, I believe we have a question from the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm just really concerned at the magnitude of this increase. We had budgeted originally $6.5 million and an additional $4.2 million for insurance during the year. That's what, about 60–70% increase in, 2/3 increase in the premiums in the year. Just curious to know what's really driving it, and try to have a better grip of it. Is this something we're expecting to continue to grow, I guess?
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I'm going to defer to the Financial Secretary, or direct to the Financial Secretary to answer your query.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for the question. Mr. Chairman, I think, and Honourable Members, I think the answer to the question is generally, there has been a very significant increase in premiums, and in particular, property insurance over what we initially budgeted, which you correctly identified as $6.5 million, and then to add a further 4.2 onto it. It is principally the premiums on property insurance have been tremendously greater than we anticipated, and we shall obviously see what the next set of premiums are. The policy year normally would end the 1st of June, so coinciding with the start of the hurricane season. So we are on pins and needles about what next year's premium would be, and I anticipate that the honourable member for Bontown West will ask a particular question about competition, but we shall see. But I think generally that's the answer, Mr.
Yeah. One further question from me, FS, or through you, Mr. Chairman, to the FS. Does the government still participate in a CRIF program?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we do. And I'm not sure whether to say pleased or not, but in the latest situation that the region had with Hurricane Beryl, fortunately we were obviously spared a direct hit, but we are due to receive a relatively small payout in the region of close between 500 and 600,000 US. In comparison, or further away neighbors in Eastern Caribbean, Grenada, the government itself is due to receive a payout of in the region of, I think, 4 to 4 million US. St. Vincent is due to receive around 1.8 million US. And I think there's a utility company in Grenada which will also receive, I think, another 9 million US. So the facility, yes, we do participate in it. It's certainly been growing. It's in the it's growing regionally as well. So it's not just Caribbean countries anymore. It's Central American countries as well. The number of policies have slowly increased. So we're not just talking about coverage for tropical cyclones any longer. We are also, in addition to that, we have earthquake. They offer earthquake coverage, policies for earthquake coverage. They also offer a policy for excessive rainfall, and those have been, some of those have been paying out as well. Some of those policies, I think, Haiti in particular, a few years ago got some payouts. So yes, and CRIF is headquartered here in Cayman.
I think, FS, your prediction is correct.
Yeah, no, I couldn't disappoint him even if I wanted to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, more an observation followed by a question, because we do recognize that we have challenges within the reinsurance market in Cayman. And one of the reasons for pushing the pension payout was also to free up some households, because they no longer had a mortgage. They basically didn't need house insurance. Not that I'm telling people not to get house insurance if you can afford it, but for some people with the rise of society to go to self-insurance situation. And then we already had the challenge in Cayman, which we saw with Tropical Storm Grace, where many homes that were insured because they didn't reach the minimum, I call it thing again, the deductible, they basically ended up with nothing. So a lot of people have chosen to self-insure, which would have kind of freed us up. So the question that I want to ask, and which the FS kind of alluded to, goes back to competition. And this is one of the reasons why we wanted to have Synico expand into this area. I mean, looking at the CIMA's annual report, which is just tabled in this session, we saw once again the massive profits that's being made on property insurance as reported by CIMA in the annual report. And if you carry that back to even Hurricane Ivan, you're talking about almost in excess of well over $1 billion now worth of profit from that standpoint. So the question in all of this comes back to, as the FS alluded before, competition. When we look at the rate that the government is actually paying for insuring their property, and then you compare that to even residential rates that are offered to residential customers in Bermuda, the Cayman government is actually paying more for the size asset that we're looking at. So the question in all of that, just to collapse this, is when is the last time where we tendered the process of basically going out and finding that broker to maybe look at getting some better insurance rates for us? Because as the honorable leader of opposition pointed out, and we do recognize the market and the area that we're in, but this is something that's basically unsustainable in the long run.
Honorable FS.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank the honorable member for the question. The honest answer is it has to be in the region of 10 years prior to any tendering of our insurance needs. Mr. Chairman, I can say to you that the responsibility for the government's insurance program now rests with myself. It's a relatively new development since March of this year. Now rests with myself and the ministry's chief financial officer. We are carrying the program as well as another officer. we are also in the process of recruiting for additional staff within that unit. And the responses that we've got thus far were not the best in the world, so we're going out for a second tranche. But I wish to assure the House once again that at the earliest possible opportunity, which is probably towards the end of this year, early next year, we want to tender out the brokerage aspect. And certainly, member for Bordentown West, we have actually been receiving email inquiries into the Ministry of Finance about the possibility of insurance services being offered from other sources. So we have actually been getting those inquiries without even actually formally tendering as yet, and so we intend to follow those up. But the answer to your question is it's been a considerable period of time since they were the insurance brokerage services that government has been tendered out, and the unit itself was basically on minimal staff and was not able to carry out the program as well as we would like it to be, and we're trying to certainly improve that situation tremendously.
Thank you very much, FS.
Thank you. Helpful question. Thank you, member. Any further questions? In that case, I'll take the vote. And can I also take it on OE 121? Seems so. Members, I wish to put to the vote that all those in favor of OE 110, general insurance, in the amount of $4,200,000, and also OE 121, additional normal costs for pension plans, decrease $1,977,000, forming part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Members, we were due to proceed in order, but I've gotten notice that on page 8, the Minister for Border Control and Labor unfortunately had to step out, so we will return to that page.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we should hold up for that unless somebody really got something. It's not anything big here unless somebody got some questions, but the Chief Officer is here and we could allow him to answer any questions. I suggest we put it to the vote.
That may be a helpful intervention, member for West Bay West. Is anybody?
I got a question.
The chief is
If the
is
Chief
CO?
Officer is here, and
CO is here?
I've spoken to him and he will.
Member for West Bay West, sorry, Bordentown West, you put your question?
Yeah, just want to update. I saw a while back that there was an announcement concerning this camp that was being built for the Cuban refugees. So I just want to get an update as to where we are with that. I see money is being deducted, so I'm just trying to figure out what has happened or where we are with the camp or for the Cuban refugees.
Right. And just for the listening public, I'll just call out, I believe your question is in relation to HCA 5.
More, well, I guess more the equity, it would be more E111 if anything, because it would have been an asset.
So therefore, can I take the first two items on page 8?
I'm fine.
Yeah, and then we'll return to your question on the last item. Members, I wish to put to a vote that all those in favor of HCA 5, Border Control Services, in the amount of a decrease of $177,346, and TP 119, Professional Development and service projects in the community in the amount of $100,000. Those amounts form part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. In relation to EI 11, I'll turn to the Chief Officer, Wesley Howell, to address the question of the member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wesley Howell, Chief Officer, Ministry of Border Control, Labor and Culture. Mr. Chairman, to answer the member from Bodentown West, the equity injection here was a year-end cleanup exercise in which we decreased some unspent capital, and that was transferred to another ministry to offset some Section 11.5s back in 2023. In relation to the Cuban, well, I shouldn't say Cuban, in relation to the Migrant Detention Center, we have received the approval of Cabinet for a Section 12 for 2024. Because this appropriation is dealing with 2023 matters, that matter won't come forward until we meet again with the Finance Committee upcoming, possibly in September. We can then deal with that. In the meantime, incoming CBC Director Smith, along with his project management team, are doing all of the groundwork that they can do to preload the procurement exercises and whatnot. So as soon as that funding is, and I'm hoping that we'll get the support of the Parliament for that Section 12, we can then execute. If I may, Mr. Chair, just reading an article yesterday where the Cuban government advised that 1 million Cubans left irregularly over the last year and a half or so. So the number of persons that are taken to the seas and otherwise is not letting up. And we have to prepare ourselves for to be able to securely house those persons. So I'm looking forward to that coming along. But this particular aspect is dealing with our ability to help offset some Section 11.5s back in 2023.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
is a
ma'am.
matter that I'm going to address with the Ministry, Chief Officer, and the Minister in regards to these possibilities that he just spoke of. Because we have, I think, needs to look at our policy on receiving. And I wouldn't go any further than that. But with the possibility of, and we've got swamped. I was there in 95 when we got swamped at over 1,000 one time. And so we got to watch out for that. And this House needs to understand that. And as I said, it's something that I will be talking to the Chief Officer about and the Minister in regards to how our policy is worked in regards to incoming.
Thank you, member. And just for the benefit of the listening public, the Minister for Border Control and Labor has re-entered the chamber. Minister, are there any other comments that you'd like to offer, any remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ably handled. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Minister Tourism.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of the opening of this discussion, I think it's important that I ask the question of, through the Minister and through yourself, to the Chief Officer, more clarity as to the parameters of these obligations, because our community has been in much discussion about the costs associated to the taxpayers, the average day person, and our obligations. And I think it's important that we have the Chief Officer elaborate on our international obligations, and it's not something that the government is not trying its hardest to avoid, particularly in light of the news just highlighted by the Chief Officer, that there is a potential for continuation of these large numbers, so much so that we may have to prepare ourselves for it. And I would like if the Chief Officer, through you, Mr. Chair, can advise not only this chamber, but the listening audience to why we're obligated to have to pay these costs from an international perspective.
Chief Officer Howell.
Mr. Chair, it's a bit to consume. I prefer that, since we hadn't come up with a policy in caucus, that we had further discussions amongst the group before we, because it would only be the chief officers. The chief officer needs to take instructions from us as to what we intend. And I don't think that we have come up with a, and I understand what he's saying in terms of some of these things fall outside the ministry and with the governor, right? And with the governor.
Thank you, Minister. As this amount, as the Chief Officer explained, is really in relation to an exercise of 2023 of a small amount, perhaps we can allow your ministry staff at another opportunity to provide that general explanation. Member for Bordentown West, you open this can. Is there anything else you'd like to offer?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Just following on from Mr. Bush, with regards to reviewing the policy, can we, in the process, also confirm that we'll be taking a look at the asylum policy? Because we have seen we were giving people asylum based on the fact that they're going to be persecuted when they return to Cuba. And as soon as they get asylum, they're right back up there having fun. So, you know, what happened to the persecution of returning home? So just to put that also for the government to consider in terms of a policy.
Chief?
Mr. Chair, thank you for that, and thank the member for the question. I am very pleased to say that given the amendments that came through December of 2022, that improved our legislation as it relates to asylum seekers, we have made tremendous progress in repatriating individuals who do not qualify for asylum in a matter of weeks as opposed to years previously. We do have a number that is around 56 persons who are still going through the process that were in the queue before the legislation came through. But since the legislation has been in place, there's a handful of individuals out of the hundreds that have arrived that are still on island. So we're making tremendous efforts in there. The matter as it relates to persons getting asylum and then essentially going back to the countries for which they were seeking. One of the amendments that we were able to secure in there is that if you are traveling regularly to the country for which you're seeking protection from, then your asylum, which is now being granted for a period of 3 years, can be revoked and not renewed. So we are again making changes to, and those changes that we've made to legislation are bearing fruit in relation to the numbers that we're dealing with and how long we keep them on island while we process their claims.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chair.
Sorry, just before the member for West Bay North caught my eye.
Mr. Chair, through you, I think what the Minister of Tourism, the point he was trying to make, and the country must know, because we in the political wing, we're getting slaughtered about this project. Everyone who's in cabinet for the last 3 years before I stepped out heard me ask Governor and Deputy Governor, why is it that we cannot just give the refugees water, food, and gasoline or diesel and make them continue on the way where they want to go? Most of them don't want to stay here. And Mr. Chair, has anything been done since England is telling us that we have to foot this bill? What are they doing to assist us with this bill since they're insisting we can't do it? Of course, everybody's trying to beat around the bush. That's the problem. So as to the negotiating team, is anything being done since England is telling us we have to do this? Well, make them see if they can foot some of the bill.
Thank you, member. And assuming Minister of Tourism, that was the thrust of your question, I appreciate the comments, but what I would say is, as we're just approving this relatively small amount, I'll afford the minister an opportunity at a later moment, maybe perhaps in this meeting, to address the sort of broad scope of the question. But members, in relation to specifically EI11. If there are no further specific questions, I'd like to call the vote. Thank you. So, members, I wish to put to the vote EI11, Ministry of Border Control and Labor, in the amount of a decrease of $557,500. All those in favor, please say aye. All those against, no. The ayes have it. Over the page, page 9, appropriations to the Minister for Education. Are there any questions on EGA1, Policy Advice, Governance, Ministerial Support Services?
Mr. Chairman, except for me on TP30, I have no questions, so I don't know what the official opposition is. So outside of that, I'm fine. I don't know for the other members. I only have a question on TP30.
Leader of the Opposition, Deputy Leader?
Yeah, I do have a question on NGS 91, so I guess you could go down to NGS 79.
Member for Newlands, are you happy to proceed to the vote? 91? NGS 91. Members, I wish to put to a vote all those in favor of the following items forming part of the schedule. I'll read them out. EGA1, Policy Advice, Governance, and Ministerial Support Services, a decrease of $161,697,000. EGA4, Public Library Services, the amount of $90,000. EGA5, Primary Education Services, $2,373,481. EGA6, Secondary Education Services, $9,304,000. EGA8, Facilities, Maintenance, and Operational School Support Services, in the amount of $3,600,000. EGA10, Education, Early Childhood, and Support Services, in the amount of $1,137,697. CCO1, Teaching and Tertiary Level Professional and Vocational Programs, in the amount of $3,374,236. And NGS 79, K9 Security Services, in the amount of a decrease of $10,000, all forming part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. In relation to NGS 91, public school meals programs, I believe we have a question from the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm satisfied with where the money went to. I'm just curious to know how we ended up with a savings of $3,316,000 on that program. If we could get some elucidation on that.
Thank you, Deputy Leader of the Opposition. I'll direct the question to the Acting Chief Officer for the Ministry for Education. That is Ms. Chief Officer Lynette Monteith.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Acting Chief Officer Lynette Monteith, Minister of Education. At the beginning of the implementation of the free meals program, which started in 2021, the budget was determined by the amount of students in the entire public school system, and the uptake varied. So it increased as the years went by, so leading to a surplus.
Deputy Leader.
Thank you. Yeah, but this is a decrease of 3.3 million. So I don't know if you had that, if you had a reduction in students or there was less school days. I'm not sure.
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there was no reduction in the number of students, but it was about the uptake. So the initial uptake, a certain amount of students would have taken advantage of that provision. And as I said, as the year went by and as the years have gone by, the uptake has increased. So initially, all students did not take up that provision.
Deputy Leader, you still look like you...
Unless I'm misunderstanding, but the original appropriation was $14,908,247. And then the revised appropriation ended up being, after a reduction or the transfer of $3,316,010, the revised appropriation for 2023 was $11,592,237, so a reduction of $3,316,010. So I'm trying to ascertain how the savings, how the $3,316,010 savings were realized. And
Chief Officer?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll ask the Director of DES to provide some further elucidation.
Thank you, sir. Just a reminder to state your name and post for the record.
Yes, sir. Through you, Mr. Chair, Mark Ray, Director, Department of Education Services. Mr. Chair, in the initial appropriation, we would have planned for a certain number of students to take advantage of the program. Over the year, what we found is that we didn't have as many students taking up the meals program, so savings were realized which could be reappropriated to the other initiative.
okay, so then you budgeted, each year you have to budget based on the uptick of students, but not all students take advantage, and I assume then if students do not consume, you're only charged for what has been consumed, and so you can realize a savings.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Thank you. Very good question. Helpful clarification. If I could take this vote. Members, I wish to put to the vote NGS 91 Public School Meals Program, a decrease amount of $3,316,010, forming part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Focusing on TPs, transfer payments, TP 30, local and overseas scholarships and bursaries. I believe, Leader of the Opposition, you indicated you have a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Ms. Pontice. Just looking at the figure, I mean, it's 15 million increase. That's basically 150% increase in 1 year. I'm looking here at the information as to the reasons for the change, and just doing some quick and dirty calculations that I have here. I'm struggling to come up and see how we have spent 150%, more than double what we budgeted for the year.
Chief Officer?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to ask the Acting Deputy Chief Officer with responsibility for the scholarships to provide an answer.
Thank you. Acting Deputy Chief, please state your name and post for the record.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Jerome McCoy, Acting Deputy Chief Officer, Minister of Education. So, through you, Mr. Chair, the nature of the increase was due to, among other things, the increased educational success of our students. So we've had more and more applicants, more and more successes, in addition to the rise in the amount of scholarships that we give in terms of numbers to actual students. We also increased the number of the budgeted funds for each student.
Mr. Leader?
Perhaps you could give me some indication as to numbers of increased in scholarships that were granted during the year?
Acting Deputy Chief.
Through you, Mr. Chair, during the period of 2023, we had a total of 221 new applicants and successful applicants for bachelor scholarships, 71 scholarships going to our master's students, and 11 scholarships going to our doctorates. What also has to be considered is we had less students who did not meet the academic criteria, so we had more students continuing year on year as well.
So through you to the acting deputy, how many people actually on scholarships in 2023?
We had a total amount of 715 students, both local and overseas.
Okay.
Sorry, just to clarify, 15 or 50?
715, Mr. Chair.
And you say of that, this last year you had 221 new applicants for bachelors, 71 for masters, and 11 for doctorates?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Okay. Right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Member for Bodden Town West.
Thank you. Just expanding on the line of question from the Honorable Leader of Opposition to the Acting Deputy Chief Officer. If memory serves me right, and recognize that this is also a cleanup exercise, there's normally a situation where education sometimes pay in December for kids starting in January, because there's always a timing issue sometimes with the year end, with kids coming home. Depends on when they're filing. In some cases, the payments are actually made in December as opposed to January. So I think you kind of get caught in between a year end when you have to make a payment versus when the kids would go off to school. So if it bumps up 1 year, you'll normally see a reduction the following year because you'd have made the payment in December as opposed to January. Just out of curiosity. And you may not have this number here, but I know that has happened in the past where like sometimes $5, $6, $7 million had to be pulled forward just to pay in December as opposed to, and because the government year end finishes December 31, it becomes an increase in appropriation. So it may look as if though it's a massive amount being spent when in fact it's more time and exercise. So I don't know, is that something that still happens or?
Acting Deputy Chief.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, so that still happens year on year. It's a timing issue. Students are due to back in school at the beginning of January, and they make their submissions in December. So every December we face a mad rush to get them their funding to continue on.
Mr. Chairman.
Minister of Tourism.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the acting Deputy Chief Officer, would it be fair to say that this is the most money spent on education for the Caymanian children ever in our history from this administration?
Acting Deputy Chief.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. This is by far the largest budget ever for TP30 overseas and local scholarship bursaries.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Member for Bodden Town West.
Yeah, no, my substantial question on TP30 has to do with the process in terms of Caymanian children applying for scholarships. Now, Mr. Chairman, I have a pet peeve when Caymanians have to go to immigration to get an acknowledgement letter, when in fact, I just confirmed a while ago just to make sure, to get on the election register, we don't need that. So I believe, and I would really like to see the government get to this, where the same information that's required to prove you can vote in this country should be good enough to prove you can qualify for a scholarship. I hate when my constituents have to go to immigration to get a Caymanian acknowledgement letter to give to the government to say this child is Caymanian. At a minimum, you should put something in the line where for perjury or whatever, like we do on immigration forms, if someone makes something that they shouldn't be there, but I think it needs to stop. And it needs to stop. That's all I need to say.
Thank you, member for Bawden Town West. I'm sure the ministry is taking note of that. Let them take that away. As a general observation going forward, which is more of a medium-term fix, when we have the national EID, that should be resolved. So, members, if there aren't any further questions on the remainder of items of page 9, can I call for a mini block vote? Thank you. Members, I wish to put to the vote the following items: TP 30, local and overseas scholarship bursaries in the amount of $14,924,153. TP 51, other educational and training assistance, $484,318. TP 83, scholarships, medical specialization, a decreased amount of $1,270,000. TP 93, public school grants and COVID-19 recovery program, a decreased amount of $929,236. OE 12, University of the West Indies membership levy, a decreased amount of $656,800. EI 12, Ministry of Education, $1,390,360, and EI 46, University College of the Cayman Islands, a decreased amount of $3,175,000. All those in favor of all of those items forming part of the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Proceeding to page 10, appropriations to the Minister for District Administration and Lands. First item, are there any questions on DAL1, policy advice and support to the Minister for District Administration and Lands? Just checking around the chamber in relation to page 10 for the member for Newlands and the leader of the opposition. Are there any questions on page 10?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question on EA4.
Member for Newlands, you're okay up until that point? Okay. So colleagues, on page 10, I will call out the items in a mini block from DAL1 up to EI 92 as follows. I wish to put to the vote that all those in favor of the following items: DAL1, policy advice and support to the Minister for District Admin and Lands in the amount of $177,346. DAL3, provision of cadastral surveying, planning, and resource management, $380,000. TP86, Sister Islands Beaches and Community Cleanup Program, $350,000. OE134, depreciation of executive assets, Ministry of District Administration and Lands, in the amount of $6,569,000. OE147, strata fees for Crown-owned property, $46,400. EI87, Ministry of District Admin and Lands, a decreased amount of $1,910,000. And EI92, Sister Islands Affordable Housing Corporation, in the amount of $1,500,000. All those in favor of all those items forming part of the schedule of the bill, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Turning now to EA4, land purchase. I believe, Leader of the Opposition, you indicated you have a question.
Yes, sir, I did have a question. I noted, looking at the explanation that's provided in the plan and estimates, it says land purchases to facilitate the expansion of public beach. Is this referring to the public beach on West Bay Road?
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I'll direct that question to the Acting Chief Officer for District Admin and Lands. Please state your name and post for the record, sir.
Wilbur Welcome, Acting Chief Officer, Ministry of District Administration and Lands. In short, no, it's not 7 Mile Public Beach. It's public beaches throughout the 3 islands.
Okay, I mean, my only observation is, government's been quite active in acquiring properties over the last year. You anticipate that that is still continuing to be the case?
Mr. Chair, through you, yes, sir.
I don't mind. Just wanted to understand. I have no other questions, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Leader, and I'm sure if the Premier was here, she would completely concur with the suggestion that she continue to acquire land in this country. So if there are no further questions, do you have any other questions on the executive asset items? Yes, no. So I'll take the remainder of the page 10 in a mini block vote. Honorable members, I wish to put to the vote that all those in favor of the following items: EA4 land purchase in the amount of $16,623,393, EA36 miscellaneous road surface upgrades, a decreased amount of $689,063, EA60 Cayman Brack Bluff Playfield, a decreased amount of $600,000, EA 125 Cayman Brack Multipurpose Hall, a decreased amount of $100,000. Finally, EA 139 Little Cayman Boat Launch Ramp, a decreased amount of $5,000. All those in favor of each of those items forming part of the bill, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. We'll proceed on, colleagues, to page 11 on the schedule of the bill, which are in relation to the appropriations to the Minister for Home Affairs. First item is HAF1, Policy Advice, Legislative Initiatives, and Ministerial Services. Are there any questions? Colleagues, may I ask whether there are any questions at all on page 11?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question on HAF 5.
And I have one on HAF 3.
Okay. In that case, I will take the vote on the first 2 items that appear on the page 11 of the schedule of the bill. Honorable members, I wish to put to the vote that HAF1, Policy Advice, Legislative Initiatives, and Ministerial Services, a decreased amount of $400,000, and HAF2, Correctional Supervision, Intervention, and Support Services, a decreased amount of $450,000, forming part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. In relation to HAF3, Prison Custodial Services, Member of Bottom West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. The 1.22 million increase, what's mainly the driver behind that extra million and change?
Thank you, member, for the question. I'll direct the question on behalf of the minister to civil servant. May you please, sir, kind sir, state your name and post for the record.
Mr. Chairman, Julian Lewis, Acting Chief Officer for the Ministry of Home Affairs. In responding to your request, sir. Can you repeat the question, sir?
Yeah, the 1.22 million increase, just pretty much what was that to cover? Just a general, what was driving the increase?
Overtime due to prison services, part and parcel of that was a payment to a pension fund. And
go no further. I'm fine. I'm familiar with it. That's good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions on HAF 3? No? Colleagues, I will put to a vote, and I'll also take HAF 4. I wish to put to the vote that the following items, HAF 3, prison custodial services, in the amount of $1,221,904, and HAF 4, public safety, electronic monitoring, and incident response, in the amount of $499,320, forming part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Moving on to HAF 5. Mr. Leader of the Opposition, I believe you had a question.
Yes, sir, I did. Just one question, really. Aerodrome Fire Services, are they now up to the full complement that they need in order to operate exactly as they're required to?
Through you, Mr. Chair. In principle, yes, sir. They are at safe operating standards. There are fluctuations in retirements and things of that nature, but they're very close to their safe systems of work.
Okay, thank you.
Member for Boddentown West.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you, I just want to go on record for a big thank you for the fire service. Whenever you look at the compendium of statistics, the amount of calls that they answer per year, it is a significant amount. It's actually mind-blowing. So a lot of people may not realize that because they may do a lot of stuff when people are asleep in their nights, in their bed at nights, but they do a lot of good work at the fire service, and I just want to register on behalf of my constituents. Thank you.
Thank you for that helpful intervention, member for Boddentown West. If there are no further questions, may I also ask colleagues if there are any further questions on the remainder of the items on page 11? Okay. In that case, I'll take the remainder of the items on page 11 to the vote. Honorable members, I wish to put to the vote HAF 5, Domestic and Aerodrome Fire Services, in the amount of $1,201,138. HAF 6, Regiment Services, $945,000, and 32. HAF 7, Cadet Corps Services, a decrease amount of $150,000. NGS 90, Cayman Islands Cadet Corps Committee, in the amount of $75,000, and TP 69, support for the Bridge Foundation, the amount of $100,000. All those in favor of putting each of those items to form part of the schedule of the bill, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Proceeding, folks, to page 12. In fact, I got a note, an express note from the Minister for Youth Sports that he had to step out for a moment. He's asked us if we could come back to page 12. Okay. It seems that the minister's been overruled. The committee is in favor of block voting page 12. So I'll call them out for the record. Members, I wish to put to the vote. NCF2, Cultural Festivals, International Exchange, Local Partnerships, in the amount of $100,000. TP 107, Youth, Sports, Culture, and Heritage Programs, a decrease of $25,000. EI 72, Cayman National Cultural Foundation, the amount of $84,000. And EI 86, Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Culture, a decreased amount of $84,000. All of those items forming part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Minister for Youth, it seems that future occasions, if you leave, your pages are dealt with in block. Thank you, colleagues. Moving on to page 13. It appears, I wonder if Minister for Tourism and Ports is asking for the same treatment. No, it appears so from the deputy leader of the opposition. So in that case, Mr. Deputy, can we skip to page and return to page 13 and proceed to page 14? Madam Whip, if you could, thank you very much. Proceeding on to page 14, the appropriations to the Minister for Financial Services and Commerce. Are there any questions on page 14? That case, I'll put it to the vote, and thereafter we can return to page 13. The Minister for Tourism has returned. In relation to page 14, I wish to put to the vote that FSC 22, registers of corporate intellectual property and vital information in the amount of $537,922. Please form part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Returning colleagues to page 13. I regret to inform you, Minister for Tourism, you did not get the Minister for Youth Treatment. So we have returned to page 13. The first item is TP12, Tourism Scholarships. I hear a crackling of the microphone from the member for BRAC,
West,
and Little Cayman.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, to the Minister, the Tourism TP12, Tourism Scholarships, what's the maximum amount?
Minister?
Through you, Mr. Chair, for the purposes of a pilot is 70,000, and in line with the other scholarships amount is the same as the Education Department scholarships.
Member?
Thank you for the answer. Through you, Mr. Chair, 70,000 is for the whole course, not per year.
It's for a 2-year program.
Yeah, and I think we're having tremendous success with it.
Very much so.
Both men and women, the young pilots coming out are fabulous. I know that I've had representation that along with the scholarship amount, there is also the flying time that they have to fly, and they're becoming very short on that. So I would just ask for your consideration when they come back, if it's something we have to adjust here, but to make sure that they're able to get the funding to do the number of hours they need to qualify.
Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I first want to say thank you so much to the honorable member for acknowledging that the program that was created under this administration and my leadership as minister is being very successful with the pilot program. I do recognize what he has said, and I am glad to hear that he supports, if necessary, more funding to help solidify the completion of those courses because they're outside the norm from a cost perspective. And if this Honorable House comes back with a supplementary, I'm happy to hear that the opposition will be in full support to give more funding for those who are applying for pilots in the Cayman Islands. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member, anything in response?
Yes, sir. I would just like to say to the Honorable Minister, one of the most rewarding experiences is after you've been the minister and you've helped some of those young pilots get their scholarship and go through the training program that was put in effect in my administration. You are elated when they come to you as you sit on the Cayman Airways plane and they say thank you.
Like silk as usual. Thank you, member, for your response. Minister?
Thank you, Minister. And by no means I'm afraid to give the necessary credit where it's due. The former minister has done tremendous things for our national flag carrier and should be given credit. And I will continue upon his great work and to make it better. With that being said, I don't think there was a question specific, but I do appreciate the member's support.
Colleagues, I'll brave this. Are there any other questions on the remainder of page 13?
Actually, I have one on EA 164, the last one.
The last one? 159, so we can take it up onto that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to take advantage of an opportunity to clarify something that was in a question earlier today on the EA1. So I just want to make a quick statement because I think the former minister was querying about the SABs and whether the timeline for purchase. And after consultation with my chief officer, I recognize that there may be a minor difference in what I interpret this question was to be. And if you give me the opportunity to clarify now, I would take it.
If you could provide that, and well, let me block vote the first two. Let me get to EI1 and then take it there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Members, I wish to put to the vote the following items: TP12 tourism scholarships in the amount of $400,000, and TP67 sports and cultural tourism programs assistance, a decreased amount of $2,340,000 to form part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. We turn now to EI1 Cayman Airways Limited in the amount of $2,940,000. Are there any questions or explanations?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Minister of Tourism.
Thank you, sir. In the earlier proceedings in the Honorable House, not in this committee, the question was asked by the former minister, elected member for Bordentown, for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman, in respect to the timeline for the transition of the SAB into a new aircraft. And I explained that the timeline for purchase could be contingent upon the agreed position on the airport for Little Cayman. I do recognize that though it may have been perceived as to say without the airport's construction, the SAB cannot be purchased, and that wouldn't be a clear or 100% factual. We could purchase another SAB, but it would be indicative and smart of the airline to consider what is happening with the airport in Little Cayman, because the AR, forgive me one second. There are ATRs models that we are considering, that the airline is considering through the board and the management as to be the recommended way forward. But there are different types of ATRs, I keep on forgetting them all. I'm obviously not a pilot. The ATRs, one upon which it flies perfectly between the Cayman Islands, Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac, but then you have the ones that can do short takeoff and landing. And depending upon where we're going with the airport could be contingent upon what kind of model of ATR we may purchase. I don't think that we should limit ourselves in future thinking, because any aircraft that we purchase will be for a long-term period. But I wanted to factor that in, and I would take the guidance of the technocrats and the board that is very so capable for guiding the government in what direction is necessary for the purchase and replacement of the SAB.
Thank you, Minister, for that explanation.
A
follow-up?
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, member.
I want to thank the Minister for accepting the point I was trying to get across, because the example would be that if the ATR was the plane of choice, we could purchase the ATRs now for the Cayman Brac route, and then the short takeoff and landing would be the third ATR that could land in Little Cayman.
I follow that. Minister?
You're 100% correct, member, and I'm glad we were able to clarify that today. So therefore, in the timeline of purchase should be within reason.
All clear? I'll take that one to a vote. Members, I wish to put to a vote EI1 Cayman Airways Limited in the amount of $2,940,000, forming part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Turning colleagues to EA159, Waterfront Tourism Experience in the amount of $250,000. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Deputy Leader?
Mr. Chairman, I see a $250,000 increase here to a total of $810,000 on the EA159 Waterfront Experience. I wonder if the Honorable Minister could give us an update on that project as it is today.
Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As per the members, the honorable member's question, I'm going to give you the specifics to the appropriation for when that was asked for, and then continue on to today's date. The 250 additional monies requested was for the waterfront tourism experience project to finish clear the site and the design services. And as the member is very aware, being a former Minister of Planning and Design, the cost associated with that is very tremendous, hence the reason for the supplementary extra funds. As per the update, the current circumstances are the designs are still being developed. Sadly, I think it's an area that we can definitely progress to be more speedily, but we have to go through the necessary planning processes and submissions and tendering and so forth, hence the reason for the delay. So it's continuing. We're waiting for the final projects to be completed in respect to plans and submissions and drawings and engineering and everything else as per the conceptual design that we agreed to in Cabinet. In the interim, I have directed my ministry to clear the site and make it more prep ready for potential events in the short term, because sometimes these developments take a long time. It is an amazing site that can be used for functions for government or potentially any other kind of entertainment, as long as it meets the necessary insurance coverage concerns. So that's where we're at as per the latest update. So you may see in a couple of weeks or so the necessary clearing to keep the site in a temporary position for events until we are ready to proceed with the waterfront tourism experience project.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Leader, follow-up? Colleagues, in relation to EA 159, I wish to put to a vote that all those in favor of EA 159 waterfront tourism experience in the amount of $250,000 forming part of the schedule of the bill, all those in favor please say aye. Those against no. The ayes have it. Moving to EA 164 Central Scranton Park, I advise members to be careful with this one from the minister. We've been warned. Minister, member for Bontown West, you dare?
Yes, I do.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the Honorable Minister. Can you just give us an update on where we are with that park, please?
Minister, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the honorable member for such a wonderful question. As per the Central Scranton Park, which I think most members of this honorable house and the members within our community is very special to me and to all members of the Georgetown district elected arm, which includes many members of the opposition, because I dare not say that this initiative is my own, but for the people, and has been started from our former honorable leader, the Honorable Kirk Tibbetts, and I'm only a passer of the baton to complete this exercise. As per the latest update, I'm happy to announce that stage part A of phase 1 of the project has been agreed and a company has been identified, and my chief officer on behalf of the government has signed off on that contract. As members will be aware, elected members are not allowed to sign any contracts on behalf of the government. It has to be a civil servant. I'm glad to say that we witnessed that just 3 weeks ago. Work is expected to start in the coming days. As per the landscaping proposal, which was out on, which has been out on Bonfire, I understand that the project has been closed and the project managers at Public Works will be reviewing the bids that have my apologies, I've been updated and informed that the closing of the Bonfire bid is on the 29th of this month, and then the project managers from Public Works will determine which company is best suited for the landscaping, which will include much trees and beautification around the beautiful water feature that is a part of Central Scranton Park. Phase 2 of the project, which encompasses a very large senior community center, is also on bonfire, and also it closes on the same date, on the 29th, and we're hoping to select a company to do that phase 2. I intend to have in the early part of next month. My apologies, Mr. Chair. Sorry, Mr. Chair. We are doing a grand launch on the 12th of September for the Central Scranton Park. By then, all the projects would have been, companies would have been selected, and I intend to invite particularly those of the Georgetown district elected members to join hands with me with the necessary steps to cut ribbons and do the celebration of what is to be moving forward. My apologies, I'm going to be invited all members, but I think it's important that I put that on record that this project has been shared particularly with members who have been a core part of the central community for some time, from the back in the day of Kirk Tibbetts, Frank McPhail, even the Sir Alden McLaughlin, the Honorable Barbara Connolly, David White, the Honorable Joseph Hugh, Roy McTaggart, myself, my colleague in government, the Honorable Sabrina Turner, and this is dear to our hearts from a Georgetown perspective, because this is not about central. The central component is only a name and a tag, but it's for Georgetown and everybody in the community, but particularly to those who live very adjacent to the park. So we're very excited and very happy, and we look forward to inviting all members and all the stakeholders that would be involved and associated with the park, particularly that of persons in the Youth Arms Ministry, persons in seniors ministry that deals with sports, because the park will have components that deal with education, culture, community, sports, agriculture, landscaping. So all of these ministers and ministries will be invited to come and take part of the vision that has been long coming, and I think it'd be a great opportunity for me to acknowledge the chairperson of the Central Scranton Park Committee, good friend Dale Ramon, for his hard work, as I'm just the conduit to delivering this on behalf of the good people of the Cayman Islands, and I look forward to inviting everybody. That's the update, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minister, for that very comprehensive response.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Sorry, just to finish, whether the member for Bontown West has any remaining questions?
I got 4 more questions on that. No, I'm just joking. I'm good. Thanks very much to the Minister.
Mr. Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the Minister, thank him for that thorough update. I did not hear any update on the licensing agreement with the Central Scranton Committee. Has that been completed?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank the member for the question. A position proposal has been offered to the Central Scranton Committee by way of what was previously there, and I think it's important to put context to the circumstances. What we found was that there's not any examples of a outright lease to a nonprofit of a government facility of what is being proposed, that they would have full control and ownership of, not ownership, but full control of a community initiative such as what is being proposed. Understanding that the previous agreement was basically on just raw land. And that is still live today. If somebody wanted, a nonprofit or a person wanted to lease from government, they can go to lands and ask for a lease and they can get it. The circumstances will fundamentally change within the next 6 months to 12 months in respect to what will eventually be there, as per the costing to taking care of the maintenance, the electricity bills, the opening, closing, the security, the insurance, all these other factors. So what we have proposed, and I'm hoping that it doesn't become anything that is not agreeable to, is to allow the foundation I've asked that the foundation nonprofit, which is the Central Scranton Committee nonprofit, to house their location because they have not had an office. So the first building that is being remodeled, which is the first contract signed and hope to start in a few days, they've been allocated a specific space in there for their longevity as long as the association is there. And I've asked for the chairperson of that organization to accept a position of being the park keeper, so to speak, whereby persons who want to use the park in a capacity of, you know, maybe it's a wedding or a community service or what have you, because obviously outside of children, young people after school program and seniors park, the park can be used for many other things, and you need a head person to go to. And that person becomes basically the park manager. But the responsibilities and costs still are bared by government. So we would procure the services of the chairperson of that nonprofit to take up that role, and they will be paid a stipend for every year taking up that role. So ultimately, they will have the keys. You need to ask to use the community hall or the after-school program. You would coordinate with them. If anything goes wrong with the park, they will coordinate with Public Works because it's still a government asset, and the government will come and fix it if there's lights are out or what have you. So they are just the middle person, but they don't have full control because there's not examples that I've researched from Lands and Survey that would give them full control of such a large asset. The park will ultimately be the biggest park in Cayman's history, not only by size, but also by costing. My apologies, Botanic Park doesn't fit the same criteria as this one from a community perspective, because that one is a profit-driven park. So Queen Elizabeth Park is obviously a lot larger, but this from a community perspective would be the largest of its kind. So therefore we thought the model of them having a office space for them to operate from and continue the great work that they do, being so familiar with the location, they're most protective of the location, as well as the chairperson of that organization is most well known to the community, the good gentleman Dale Ramon, and who would happily assist with his committee to deliver the interim controls of the park. So that is what is proposed. We're just hoping and just waiting for them to finally accept that proposal, and then they will have my ministry to sign off the necessary agreements with that lease arrangement with Lands and Survey.
Thank you, Minister, for that response. Take it, Deputy Leader, no follow-up questions? In that case, the remaining item on page 13, I'll put to a vote. Honorable members, I wish to put to the vote EA 164 Central Scranton Park in the amount of $300,000 to form part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, in conclusion of my appropriations, I would like if you would give leeway for me to thank my staff.
Please do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to take this opportunity to say how proud I am to be the minister responsible for tourism and ports, and thank the staff who have come here today. And thank you for making me look good, because it's all their hard work that makes me shine so well. So particularly to the Department of Tourism and the staff, particularly to Cayman Airways and the amazing management and board, and my ministry staff who always makes me look good. Thank you guys so much. God bless.
Thank you, colleagues. As a reminder, we've already completed the appropriation on page 14. Now move to page 16. Appropriations to the, 15. Appropriations to the Minister for Investment
Mr.
Innovation.
Chair, this was covered at an earlier point, FSC 22.
Yes.
I had a very extensive question on it. Actually, I'm kidding. I just wanted to join with you in congratulating Ms. O'Mara Whitaker on her significant achievement as being Cayman's first intellectual property examiner.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Very proud of her. Thank you, member for Newlands. On to page 15, the schedule of the bill, appropriations to the Minister for Investment, Innovation, and Social Development. Starts with ITI 1, International Engagement and Representation of the Cayman Islands. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, can I propose a block vote, sir? Because I don't see there's any indication for questions for this appropriations.
Fair so. Member for Newlands is good.
More of an observation than anything.
Deputy Leader, sorry, Leader.
Yeah, more of an observation, and obviously I think concerning to me that when you look at the TPs, they all have gone up quite significantly over the previous year. Very significant additional sums being voted to, like TP 41 of 11 million. That's in addition to many millions that were approved for the beginning of the year. And if I could just ask you, sir, are you seeing any sort of leveling off of the requests and numbers that you are starting to get? Because it really starts to worry me when I see the numbers creeping up as they are right now. And I know there's genuine needs, but is there any sense that things are starting to lighten up?
Very valid and genuine question. May I propose then that we take the first group before we get to the TPs as a mini block vote and then come to the TPs? Right. All right. Colleagues, I'll call in order under the first output group. Honorable members, I wish to put to a vote that ITI 1, International Engagement and Representation of the Cayman Islands, a decreased amount of $537,922. ITI 2, Social Development and Support, Children and Family, the amount of $250,000. ITI 3, Digital Services and Strategy, a decreased amount of $1,168,800. And CAIY 2, Children and Youth Services, Keys Foundation, the amount of $100,000. All of those said items form part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Mr. Leader, moving on to TP 41, which I think was the bulk of your concern. I'll turn to the Chief Officer for the Ministry of Investment, Innovation, and Social Development. Chief, your name and post for the record.
Tamara Ebanks, Chief Officer, Ministry of Investment, Innovation, and Social Development. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the member, could you repeat the question again for us, please, on TP 41?
It wasn't so much a question. I mean, I guess it is a question. I did ask if you all are starting to see any sort of leveling off or in terms of the numbers of requests for financial assistance coming through the NAU, because all of these transfer payments, if you look at each of them in their own way, are up quite significantly from the original budgets.
Chief, it may assist the member. He wouldn't be able to see the specific unique items that increased TP 41 in the year of 2023. That may help you. Please, Chief.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the supplementary annual plan and estimates, we would have started off by pulling forward money from 22 into 23, which the original appropriation wasn't sufficient.
Page 55.
Right. I will also, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the member, the increase in this particular TP 41 was also a result of the uplift to LTFA recipients, ex-servicemen, and also seafarers.
In addition, if I may, the ministry also inherited the tourism stipend, which was then administered from TP 41, which is a complete anomaly.
Mr. Chairman.
Member for Bodden Town West.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask your indulgence a little bit, just to, I guess, with a preamble first. I guess to all members and listening public. We have a structural problem here in Cayman where the health insurance is inadequate, the pension is inadequate, and we have an aging population. The truth of the fact is that unless we make some drastic steps in terms of a national health insurance or something like that and create a safety net, this number is going to go up every single year. So there is no ifs, ands, and buts about, at least for the next 3 to 4 years, even if we were to make a major decision now, it's going to take at least 3 to 4 years before you could even see this number start to maybe reverse or stay steady. But this number isn't going anywhere down, it's only going to go up. And the best example of that we saw yesterday when the minister gave an update, the Minister of Health, on the segregated insurance fund that collected over $6 million last year. When that fund was created 20 years ago, that fund was collecting $3 million. At that point, indigent health care was costing us $6 million, and that fund was supposed to cover 50%. Now, NGS 55 and HEA 2 is running us anywhere from 75 to 80 million a year, and we're only collecting $6 million. So that just kind of gives the shortfall that we're looking at. So, and that's a structural problem that we have in this country. So I can tell you right now, unless we make those major changes in this house and start putting a safety net for people, NGS 55, HEA 2, TP 41, all of those numbers are going to go north because of the kind of structural population that we have. So we can have these questions every year, but every budget is going to be an issue because of the structural issues that we have inherited. Now, ultimately, there will be no quick fix for it. It's going to take at least a generational solution to actually fix this problem if we really want to be serious about it. But I can guarantee you, Minister, this number is going to go up. And come budget time, it's going to go up. Same as NGS 55, same as HEA 2. It is no turning back on this point now.
Thank you, Member for Bodden Town West. I'm so glad you made that overall observation. You know, from our time working together, I agree from a macro policy perspective. When we were doing the consultation and development work for the Financial Assistance Act, and we had consultation and working groups, it was clear that this TP 41 is as a result of other gaps in the social safety net, where this is the only pot paying people, and so it's the only relief. Without the closing of the other gaps in the social safety net system, this would increase. But for this specific year, Mr. Leader, there were a couple of anomalies that just wouldn't feature ordinarily. I'd also want to make the point in terms of some of the more intermediate steps that would address part, or at least small part, of the member for Bodden Town West question that the Minister for Health and I are working on together, is to align indigent healthcare coverage into one ministry. Because at the moment, the Ministry of Social Development through Department of Children and Family Services approves the clients. But the budget rests in the Ministry for Health. So that minister is unable to see at the time of the approval the clients to match with the budget. It's also a nightmare for the client because they have to go through NEU, go to HSA, get checked out, then it comes back to NEU, which gives it back to DCFS, because that's how the law, the Health Insurance Act, is written now. And then the approval goes out. But really, in the instance, the NEU is really only the messenger. All of the activity pretty much happens at the hospital. So those are some of the intermediate fixes that we need to get right. And the minister and I are working to have that. It's legislation is under her responsibility to have that before the House before the end of the year. But it's those type of structural changes I think were in your overall observation to help with this situation.
Mr. Chair.
The Minister for Border Control and Labor.
Are you at liberty to say that this TP 41 is the same vote where the the suggestions for the warden's compensation would come from?
Correct. Do you want me to? No. Okay. That's a proposal that I'll come to later. It wouldn't have featured in 2023. It's for 2024. Mr. Leader, I'm mindful that we strayed a bit from your question, but did it provide you any clarity? Okay. On the rest of the items on page 15, are there any other questions? Or was that the main one, was TP 41? All right, thank you, colleagues. In that case, I'll take the remainder of the items in a mini block vote. Honorable members, I wish to put to the vote that TP 41, financial assistance in the amount of $11,050,550. TP 47, ex gratia benefit payments to seafarers and ex-service persons in the amount of $658,250. TP 57, children and family services support, $415,000. TP 60, housing assistance, $625,000. TP 80, support for business initiatives, a decreased amount of $1,140,000. And finally, EI 78, Ministry of Investment, Innovation and Social Development, a decreased amount of $395,000. All forming part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. While sitting there, I want to thank the Chief Officer, Tamara Ebanks, for leading the ministry so ably. And while he's sitting there, and I see both, to the newly appointed Caymanian Deputy Chief Officers, one, Trevor Gibbs, and the always colorful Charles Brown. Thank you. Congratulations on your succession to the civil service. Thank you, colleagues. We'll now move to page 16, appropriations to the Minister for Planning, Agriculture, Housing, and Infrastructure. The first item is PAH1, advice and support to the Minister for Planning, Agriculture, and Housing, and Infrastructure. Colleagues, are there any questions?
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman. Actually, no, I'll skip that one.
Are there any, just to take a look around, are there any questions at all on page 16? Yeah? Yeah. Shall I take them one at a time? 16? Okay. Any questions up to PH 14? Doesn't appear so. I'll take a mini block vote. Members, I wish to put to a vote PAH 1, advice and support to the Minister for Planning, Agriculture, and Housing, a decreased amount of $150,000. PH 4, public parks and cemeteries maintenance and management, an amount of $1,150,000. PAH 10, management of government properties, in the amount of $531,077, and PAH 14, management of planning applications, $750,000. All those items forming part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Moving on to PAH 16. Deputy Leader, I believe you indicated you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I see the increase by 1.4 million, and I noticed the one of them is the, I assume, additional acquisition of the license plates. Can the minister advise as to whether or not we are now at a point where all new vehicles are being plated with the new plates, and where are we with catching up on those vehicles who have been licensed in the past without the new plates?
Minister for Planning, directing question to Director David Dixon. Sir, if you could, for the record, state your full name and post.
Good afternoon. Name is David Dixon, Director of Vehicle Licensing. Through you to the honorable member, we have started the replating of the vehicles, to which the last count we had under 1,800 left to be completed. Most of those in the 1,800 would have been either suspended or terminated and taken off the road. We're now in the process of doing some new tendering in terms of new plates.
Deputy Leader.
Yeah, thank you. I thank the Mr. Dixon for the answer. And so in the second part of my question, all vehicles being licensed now, we've caught up with it that all new vehicles being licensed or relicensed are now getting the new plates?
Mr. Director.
Mr. Chair, through you to the member, that is correct.
Deputy Leader pondering? It's okay, it's okay. Member for Bordentown West.
Mr. Chairman, since the director is here, I just need to extend him a big fat thank you. Last night at 1:59 a.m., well, this morning at 1:59 a.m., I got my DVDL receipt that I renewed my driver's license online. And by this afternoon, actually, I had my driver's license in hand. They literally sent out like reminders of when it's going to expire and all that kind of stuff. So the technology we have actually seen working, I was able to renew it for like 10 years. Hope I look the same in 10 years, but nonetheless, I just want to say, Mr. Director, thank you very much for the services that you're doing. I know you guys take a lot of criticism, but when you do good, we in this house should also highlight that. So I just want to say thank you for what you have been doing.
Member, if I could add to that, I had a similar experience very recently when my driver's license expired, and it gave me a lot of confidence for some of the similar software we're trying to implement in other ministries that it actually does work. My photo was teetering on getting out of date, so probably the next one I'll probably have to take another one, but I have the same haircut. But Mr. Director, do you want to take your kudos?
Mr. Chair, thank you to yourself and the member for those comments.
Very humble. If there aren't any other questions, I'll take the vote on PAH 16, licensing of drivers and vehicles in the amount of $1,400,000 to form part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Moving on to PAH 24, agriculture support and regulatory services. Any questions? Deputy Leader?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I wonder if the Honorable Minister could just shine some light on there was original appropriation of 5.3 million, over 5.3 million. 1.845 of that was used in the previous year in 2022. And now we have a new appropriation that's just about double that at 8,971,000. If the honourable member could provide some background on why the huge increase in the appropriation.
Minister.
Mr. Chair, the acting chief officer, or sorry, the deputy chief, sorry, the acting director of agriculture, Mr. Brian Critchlow, will answer the question.
Thank you. We'll wait momentarily for him to take a seat. Kind sir, if you could state your full name and post for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Brian Critchlow, Acting Director, Cayman Department of Agriculture.
Do you need the question repeated?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind. Thank you, member.
Deputy Leader.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Critchlow. I'm just trying to, PAH 24, I noticed that there was, out of the original appropriation, some 173,316 was utilized in 2022, leaving you 743,881. And then we had another supplementary request of 1.4 million, giving you a revised appropriation of 2,143,881, which is almost double of the original appropriation. I wonder if you could shed some light on why the increase?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The agricultural supplies vote, which is the majority of this money goes to, is a vote used to purchase supplies, feed, forage, and those items which are then sold to farmers. A large amount of this is, of course, consumer driven by the farmers' demand. So as demand changes, there's an increased demand and increased need for supplies. And additionally, during that period of time, as you will be aware, we also had a number of impacts on pricing, ranging from fallovers from COVID, as well as impacts of the war in Ukraine, which drove up grain prices significantly. So, and all of these matters impacted the funds needed to purchase. So in the first year, in 2022, money had to be brought forward from 2023 to cover the shortfall. And then, of course, the shortfall continued. So you would then need a second appropriation to replace the money borrowed from 2023 and to increase it up to the level that was really necessary, which is close to about 5.8 million, 5.7 million per year purchasing. So when you combine the two, it comes to the total figure that the honorable member is asking for. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a long week, but I want to apologize, especially for the Hansards. I was looking at page 60 when I asked the question the second time versus page 61, so I had the numbers wrong, which kind of confused me while I was doing it, but I still did it. I just want to thank Mr. Critchlow for the response, and I guess while you were speaking, were these figures also impacted by the storms last year?
Sir?
Not heavily, sir, but the storms last year. I think Hurricane Tropical Storm Grace was the year before. Last year was the one that impacted Florida. We were very fortunate. We had some minor impacts, but we were very fortunate to be working in advance, anticipating the route of the hurricane. We readjusted our supply routes to have feed manufactured in other mills as opposed to the ones in Central Florida. So there was a short period of time, about 2 weeks, where feed had to be trucked from further north, from mills in North Florida and other locations, as the mills near Orlando were shut down for about a week and a half. But fortunately, we have enough redundancy built into the system that it didn't actually impact supplies to farmers, and that increase was relatively minor in the overall scheme of things, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, and just a quick comment as a regular visitor to the Department for Feed and stuff. I'm happy that there's been a while now you're accepting debit cards. And the staff there are very helpful and knowledgeable. What would be very useful for the end user would be a catalog of some sorts, so we know what you actually have there, versus having to spend time at the window asking the staff, do you have this, do you have this, do you have this? And I'm speaking about feeders and fertilizers and that sort of stuff.
Sure. Honorable Chairman, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the honorable member. Yes, sir, this is something we are working on. We actually did have a contract with a vendor to update our website, and one of the reasons for selecting the vendor was supposedly strong capability in linking our point-of-sale system to the website to give live updates as to the catalog. Unfortunately, it did not work out to the level, and we are currently revisiting the website with a different vendor. And it's our goal to bring that online as soon as possible, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there aren't any other questions on PAH 24, I'll take it to a vote. All those in favor of PAH 24, Agriculture Support and Regulatory Services, in the amount of $5,500,000, form part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Moving on to the transfer payments, TP 76, Assistance for Infrastructure Development. Are there any questions? It doesn't appear from the formal opposition to be any other questions on the rest of page 16.
I just have one on EI 57.
Okay, member for Newlands. Okay, so we'll take a mini block vote up until EI 57. Members, I wish to put to a vote TP 76, Assistance for Infrastructure Development, in the amount of $2,045,000. TP 84, Agriculture Sector Development, a decreased amount of $350,000. TP 90, Assistance to Georgetown Revitalization, decreased amount of $150,000. TP 113, Agriculture Sustainable Production Program, a decreased amount of $500,000. And TP 120, Cleanup Relating to Natural Disasters, a decreased amount of $75,000. All forming part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. EI 57, member for Boddentown West.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just the minister, just to quickly touch on with the National Housing Development Trust, what does that 500,000 really relates to?
Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, the National Housing Development Trust for the 500,000 was the housing repair program that we started under my leadership, and as of right now, we have completed 36 homes that have been actually completed and dried in, and we have just over 70 more to actually go. So I can guarantee you, as people here were talking about this, there's going to be a lot more people coming in, and they're going to probably need more money again to continue with that. But I know my ministry and your ministry has been working together to try to tackle this as much as we can to dry in as many houses as we can as possible.
Thank you very much for that, and I just want to extend I want to thank the minister in advance, because I know a couple of those 70 is from my community, so thank you in advance for getting those done too, sir, on behalf of my constituents.
Deputy Leader?
Oh, I can thank him in advance as well then.
All right, I take it we can take this one to the vote. I wish to put to the vote EI 57, National Housing Development Trust, in the amount of $500,000 to form part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Over the page, same minister. Appropriations to the Minister for Planning, Agriculture, Housing, and Infrastructure. Executive Assets, EA 36, Miscellaneous Road Surface Upgrades. Are there any questions? Doesn't appear so. Are there any questions at all on page 17 of the schedule of the bill? Okay. I'll propose to take EA 36, EA 78, and 142 up to a block vote, a mini block vote. Okay. Members, I wish to put to the vote EA 36, Miscellaneous Road Surface Upgrades, in the amount of $5 million. EA 78, Government Office Accommodation Project 1, in the amount of $400,000. And EA 142, Georgetown Revitalization, in the amount of $1,500,000, all to form part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye. That didn't sound very encouraging. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, no. The ayes have it. Turning to EA 148, Major Roadworks Expansion Projects. Deputy Leader.
Thank you. It had about a 50%, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Honorable Minister, it had about a 50% increase in this major roadworks expansion projects. I wonder if the Honorable Minister could give us the reasons for those or where those funds were used for.
Minister.
Mr. Chair, through you, those the funds for EA 148 for the major roadworks expansion projects, most of that money was due for was used for the expansion of Linford Pearson, also the completion of the ACR, some section of the Godfrey Nixons that we were actually doing, and also some of the extra liens that are actually going up to Lion Center roundabout, the CUC roundabout up that area.
Deputy Leader. Okay, no further questions on EA 148, major roadwork expansion projects in the amount of $5,400,000. I wish to put to a vote. All those in favor of that item to form part of the schedule of the bill, all those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. EA 151, upgrade ramps and jetties. Any questions? Minister, just out of curiosity, just in future for my knowledge, EA 151 in 2024, might that be where we might fix docks?
Mr. Chair, through you, and as you can see, that's a small, significant amount of money that was in there.
So if it's increased in 2024, would that enable you to fix outstanding docks that are government docks?
Mr. Chair, through you, there's two votes that the monies for docks can come out of, and I think it's 168, which isn't here, but also we can use EA 151. So there's money in between both votes that can be used there. There are some money in there for this year to do the completion of the East End dock, which will be a new concrete dock for East End, and we're also may need some money more because we have a lot of dock repairs after the Hurricane Beryl that crossed it, but also the Nor'wester that actually went through. We got a major hit in dock, so, and including the West Bay dock, as you know, the business case and everything else has been completed for that, and that's just waiting to go to PPC now, along with the dock for East End.
Minister for Tourism.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, I don't know if you could advise this Honorable House, as I know that you're very strong about getting these docks rectified and having to go through the necessary procurements and so forth. But unfortunately, I've seen members of the public suggesting that they're trying to fix government docks, and of course every one of us would want to do it as fast as we can, but there is proper procedure as per planning requirements and the Department of Environment as for it being coastline located. But I'm concerned that members are going out there trying to do their own initiatives on government properties, potentially at the liability of themselves and the public, and it could cause insurance concerns for the like of politics. Could you speak a little bit to that? Because I'm concerned about a video that has been circulating at particularly one of the docks in the Eastern District.
And just to clarify, Minister for Tourism, you don't mean members of the House, you mean members of the public?
Correct, members of the public, not members of the House.
Thank you for that clarification. Minister?
Mr. Chair, through you, just yesterday, my comms team has actually put out a release on the docks and requesting the same thing, letting people know what the details are, what we have to do to be able to do these repairs, and asking individuals to not try to repair any of the docks on their own, because there is a liability if someone doesn't repair the dock and it's done in the right way. And there's Just speaking at some of the ones in the eastern side of the island, it wouldn't make sense for us to repair that particular dock right now when we're actually going to be building a new concrete dock within the next month, starting within the next month. So we're just asking the people in directly in East End to just bear with us on that one while the new construction of that dock is being started. Then we'll be starting to remove the old existing dock, because I think that was the dock that the minister was speaking about. But there's also the other dock in East End, which is in Colliers also, that had a small amount of damage to it. We're going to be trying to get PWD out to actually fix that, because the damage to that wasn't that significant. We are also looking at the dock in, sorry, we're also looking at the dock at Lobster Pot. Also, speaking with the finance team to see whether that dock was actually insured, and if it was, if we could claim on the insurance to be able to repair that dock. Yes, and then also, just to give an update, on the South Sound dock, I think some of the repairs at that, to be able to get that strengthened, we can do that through PWD also. And we're also looking at the boardwalk in South Sound to be able to get that done by PWD, which we spoke about yesterday also.
Thank you, Minister. I didn't want to stray too far from this specific appropriation, but I do think it was a helpful update for the members in Georgetown, the members in West Bay, the members in East End, and potentially also in Georgetown, where some of these matters with some supplementary funding can hopefully be cleared and resolved this year. Are there, just out of curiosity, are there any other questions on any of the other items on page 17? I propose, let me just deal with the upgrading ramps and jetties and return to the next item. Colleagues, I wish to put to a vote EA 151, upgrade ramps and jetties in the amount of $425,000 to form part of the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Turning now to EA 153, upgrade to parks, in the amount of $1 million. Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see that this EA has been doubled from 1 million to 2 million, and if my memory serves me, I do believe that somewhere in there there was discussions about the Niels Godfrey Park in the swamp area that was requiring some upgrades and some restrooms as one of the more heavily used parks certainly within my constituency.
Minister?
Mr. Chair, through you, one of my first telephone calls this morning at 8 o'clock was actually talks about the Neil Godfrey Park through the Public Works Department. So I don't know if somebody may have updated the member already while he's asking the question, but yes, we are looking at updating the park, and there's some significant stuff that needs to be done to the park, and we should see some works starting within this year. I would hope so, to make sure we get going, because it was they were just questioning to find out exactly if we could actually do some of the steps in the park within phases right now.
Deputy Leader.
Mr. Chairman, through you, thank you, and I thank the Minister for that. I'm happy to meet and discuss the park with anyone. There are some in-kind donations that have been offered as well. So I would be happy to get together with the team at Public Works or whomever to get some action there.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Minister for Border Control and Labor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I wanted to note is the Cowood Beach. The ministers has agreed to upgrade the cabanas there, and definitely some work to the restrooms. But what I wanted to ask the minister, if it had ever been considered to have some park rangers or some kind of security to protect government's interests.
Minister?
Mr. Chair, through you, I know me and my team has had discussions about creating park rangers, but then it also falls, I think, it's like a gray area between the PLC on certain of these public beaches, and whether the PLC was actually starting to police a lot of these public beaches themselves. So maybe a question more for another ministry, the lands ministry.
On behalf of the Minister for Lands, we'll take that away. Colleagues, I'd like to take the vote. I don't see any other. Oh, sorry. Minister for Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But just before you take the votes, I just want to thank the Minister for Planning for supporting us getting these docks repaired and also replaced in the District of Eastern, because we've been working on this together for quite some time, and I'm glad to see that it's almost there.
Thank you, colleagues. Sorry, are there any other questions on the remaining items of page 17? Does not appear so. Take a mini block vote. I wish to put to the vote EA 153, upgrade to parks, in the amount of $1 million. EA 160, design and construction of the new civic centers, a decreased amount of $1,825,000. And EA 161, submarine cable, a decreased amount of $16,418,000. All of those items to form part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Skipping forward to page 18, which moves on to...
Mr. Chair, if you will.
Sir.
I just want to thank my team and just be able to release them so that they can go home really quickly.
And, sorry, good point, Minister. And just to add to that, while he is here, Mr. DCO Tristan Hides, we gave a few of us gave comments in obituary sections the passing of your brother Bendel. While you are here, we also just want to say so formally to you and your family, sincere condolences. Good night, sir. Moving on to page 18, this now moves to the appropriations to the Minister for Health and Wellness. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Page 16, HES 1, Policy Advice and Ministerial Services to the Minister for Health and Wellness. Are there any questions on HES 1? The opposition look like you're weighing in.
No, Mr. Chairman, just getting down to looking at these appropriations, I think it would be appropriate for us to know which ones of these that they were not the Section 11.5s. That way we can focus on the right.
Valid query. Minister for Health.
Mr. Chair, through you, all were 11.5s.
So just to clarify for the listening public, every item on page 18 is subject to an 11.5? Yeah? Okay. Mr. Leader?
Mr. Chair, through you, HES 1, that I think the Leader of the Opposition is referring to, in the reason for the appropriation would have been covered under 11.5, the 2.7, the 1.7, the 282. And there was only one there in March of 2024 that would not have fallen under this 11.5. But particularly, there's one Section 12, sorry.
Yeah, but that's what I want to refer back to.
Yes.
That 282 would...
The 282 would be a Section 12.
So, Mr. Leader, if it would be helpful, I think that's page 67 in the plan and estimates.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
No, just looking at it and now just getting a chance to digest the explanation that's given.
Just give him a minute.
But the Chief Financial Officer can further elucidate on it for further clarity.
All right.
If you
If
permit.
needed.
Yes.
So perhaps just give the leader a moment to digest, and then we'll take it from there.
Perhaps you could ask him to do so, because we would have had it with all the other 11.5s, had detail as to how, why, that sort of stuff.
Sounds good. Minister?
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you, I would allow my Chief Financial Officer and Acting Chief Officer to be able to explain once he introduces himself officially.
Please proceed to introduce yourself.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Troy Claxton, Acting Chief Officer, Ministry of Health and Wellness. To the honorable member, to answer your question, all of the items there on page 17 were section 11.5.
Sorry, for the listening public, we're on page 18 of the schedule to the bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's HES 1.
Yes.
Correct.
Page 18.
Yeah, so on the HES 1, all of the items there are section 11.5. The 282.322, it's shown there as a section 12, but it is actually an 11.5. That is funding for the molecular biology laboratory under the Health Services Authority. The details of that appropriation is as follows. The total funding requested was 1.271 million. Out of that 1.271, 282,322 were funding that we were able to identify internally within the ministry for 2 months, and that part of it was an 11.5, and then the balance of 988,127 was done under a section 12.
Mr. Leader?
Through you, sir, thank you for that explanation. What I think jumps out more at me is that the original appropriation is 8.1 million for HES 1, and we end up with a final revised appropriation of $481,000 and change. My question really is, how does this go down that much? In terms of the nature of the appropriation, HES 1, I mean, it's policy advice and ministerial services to the Minister for Health and Wellness. There are normally quite substantial sums spent in these types of appropriations, but it's
Understood, Mr. Leader. Acting Chief?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to answer the honorable member's question, so the supplementary funding there, the 8.6 million, is a reduction of that appropriation. The 481, there was actually an unused appropriation from 2022 in the amount of $4,554,941. That should be reflected in that revised amount. The amount appropriated for 2022 was 8.1 million, and there was an unused amount of 4.56 million. The reason for such a big amount was when the budget was done in 2021 for 2022 and 2023, we budgeted on the basis that the Poinciana Rehabilitation Center, formerly the long-term residential mental health facility, would have been completed by the Public Works Department and handed over to the ministry. However, at the end of 2022, that building had still remained in the hands of the Public Works Departments, so there were significant savings in operational expenditure for the Poinciana rehabilitation center, resulting in those significant savings. And it's the same thing that in 2023 as well. So it's all rolled up into that appropriation on the ATS 1.
Mr. Leader?
Thank you, Father. Just one further question then. I'm just looking at the numbers and how they work. It seems to me that we may have an error here in this appropriation. Because if we start out with 8.1 million and we deduct 8.6, that final figure should be a negative. Am I getting something wrong here?
Mr. Leader, the Honorable FS would like to weigh in.
FS, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I think you're not making a mistake at all. Ordinarily, that would have resulted, as you said, in a negative end-of-year budget. But I think the CFO, Mr. Claxon, our acting chief officer, said that there was considerable unspent budgets from 22. So when you, as you just caught, the negative almost 500,000 in respect of 23, the end of year 481,000 was as a result of that negative number for 23, but also taking into account that there was a positive leftover from 2022 as a budget. I know that he did mention a figure of 4 million, I believe. So yes, there is a discrepancy in how you arrive at 481,000, right? Fortunately, I think for us, Mr. Chairman and members, that the bill is seeking to appropriate the supplementary amount, and I think the acting chief officer is agreeable that that supplementary amount, that actually a reduction of 8.6 million, the reduction is correct.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mr. Leader, any further questions? Are you prepared for a block vote on the entire page 18?
Just wanted to ask a question on
Minister for Border Control and Labor.
EA 30.
That's the last item on the page. Any questions on any items before EA 30? Does not appear so. So I'll take a large block vote up until EA 30. Members, I wish to put to the vote HES 1, Policy Advice and Ministerial Services to the Minister for Health and Wellness, a decreased amount of $8,620,484. HES 7, Collection, Recycling and Disposal of Waste, 100,000. HES 11, Mosquito Control Services, decreased amount of $3,500,000. HEA 2, Medical Care for Indigents, the amount of $13,768,000. HEA 16, Geriatric Services, the amount of $2,501,253. HEA 17, Medical Care Beyond Insurance Coverage / Uninsured, the amount of $1,018,311. HEA 19, Medical Care for Chronic Ailments, in the amount of $435,764. HEA 20, Public Health Programs, Investigations and Treatments, in the amount of $2,212,138. NGS 55, Tertiary Medical Care at various local and overseas institutions, in the amount of $33,867,145. On to transfer payments. Transfer payment, TP 73, Other Health and Wellness Program Assistance, a decreased amount of $600,000. And finally, EA 53, Ministry of Health and Wellness, in the amount of $1,700,000. EI 53, all of those said items to form part to the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, say no. The ayes have it. Final item on page 18, EA 30, Cemetery Vaults, Grand Cayman. Minister for Border Control and Labor.
Thank you. Just wanted to ask a question and relative to the new Peace Bay Cemetery. I know that this responsibility cross ministries, but I think the EA 30 is for building of the vaults, and we have a major problem at the new Peace Bay Cemetery, and I think most know about it already. But I'm not sure if they have come up with a strategy to combat the amount of water that is settling at the new Peace Bay Cemetery. And I know it will be a cross-ministry effort to achieve this, but I'm not sure if the discussion is ongoing.
Minister?
Mr. Chair, through you, the construction of vaults, yes, is fall under my remit. However, Parks and Recreations, in regards to correcting what my honorable colleague and friend is actually referring to, would actually fall under Parks and Recreations. So we are aware that this is unfortunate. There's much infrastructure that will be needed, but I would defer that query and hope that my honorable colleague and friend from Parks and Recreations, Minister Ebanks, would be able to expound a bit more on any possible solutions to rectify these issues, not only in the Peace Bay area, but we also have issues of flooding as well in other cemeteries.
Mr. Chair.
Minister?
I thank the minister so much for that response, and my suggestion is until we can resolve the matter, I think we need to stop building vaults at the new Peace Bay Cemetery in Bordentown. It's very embarrassing. Persons had to walk on crates because to get to the vault to put the loved ones in, and there was some suggestion about burying their loved ones in water. So obviously I've aired and emailed, but I hadn't heard back in a while. I thank the minister for, and I understand the position that the minister is in, and I hope that we can either demark the area and try to fill it out and try to find the budget to do this. I think our loved ones deserve a good resting place. Thank you.
Minister for Planning, would you like an intervention?
Yeah, please, Mr. Chair. Just to give a quick update. Mr. Chair, 2 weeks ago, we visited the graveyard, and with the NRA team. The NRA team is out there. They're trying to come back to the government with a proposal and a costing of what it's going to cost to actually demark the section of it and bring the level of the graveyard up. It probably needs to come up close to almost 3 feet, 3.5 feet in the back section, working and leveling back out to what the road level is. So I'm just waiting on the costing, and then I'll be presenting that to caucus very shortly.
Minister for Border Control and Labor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate that. Music to the ears. Thank you so much, both ministers.
I would agree. Thank you, Minister for Planning, for a helpful intervention, and your prior comments, Minister for Health, shows good cross-ministry collaboration of an issue for a member and an area for our people. I think that would end.
EA 30.
Yeah. It's just one item. That's the final item on page 18 to vote on. So I wish to put to a vote EA 30 Cemeteries, Vaults, Grand Cayman, in the amount of $95,000 to form part to the schedule of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Over the page
Mr.
to
Chair?
page. Yes, Minister?
Thank you. Through you, I'll take this opportunity to right now just publicly thank my two ministries. I know Home Affairs left earlier, but I'd like to thank all of the staff for their continued support throughout the ministry, and also for the HSA board as well. I would just like to publicly thank for their continued support.
Thank you so much, Minister, for that. Colleagues, over the page. Page 19, the schedule of the bill, appropriations to the Deputy Governor. Wait for the acting Deputy Governor to take her chair. Good evening, Acting Deputy Governor. The first of the output groups, CIV1, policy advice to the head of the civil service. Are there any questions, members?
Mr. Chairman, I'll let him go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the Honorable Acting Deputy Governor. Just with regards to the Second Chance program that the civil service have in terms of people coming to know, how is that program going? Is there any funding left for this year?
Acting Deputy Governor.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I thank the member for the question. The program continues to be running through a partnership with the portfolio of the civil service and agencies such as work that receives the applications and our colleagues within our prison services, as well as community rehabilitation that assists with the vetting. I can say that there is funding that is still within the program. We have at present a significant number of applications that's recently come in that is going through screening. It is possible that the funding would be, could very well be exhausted with that group that is being considered now. But we have received from this Honorable House and the government support that if that were to be the case, that we could revert. But I can say that this year in particular, there has been an uptick in applications compared to past years.
Thank you very much. That's actually good to see people looking to go that road as opposed to something else. So anything that we can do to help, I'll be very supportive also. Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you, member for Bodden Town West. Mr. Leader, do you have any comments on CIV1 or same question to the member for Newlands?
No, Mr. Chairman. In fact, I don't have any questions with regard to this entire set of appropriations. The big figure, the 8.8 million, we actually dealt with here in August last year, so I don't have any issue with the rest of it.
All right, I would propose to put the entire page in block, but I'm also aware that Acting Deputy Governor, you have one small committee stage amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 65-1, I, the Honorable Acting Deputy Governor, hereby give notice to move the following amendment to the schedule of the above captioned bill with respect to appropriation to the Deputy Governor, OE 116, pension uplift. This matter is not presently shown in the schedule to the bill and is to be added to the schedule to the bill in the amount of $160,280.
Just to confirm, have members received distribution of this committee stage amendment? Today? Yeah? You have it? Okay. Thank you. Acting Deputy Governor, do you care to speak to the proposed amendment?
Just to thank, on behalf of our public service pensioners, just to thank all members of this Honorable House for their continued support. Thank you.
Colleagues, the question is whether or not this committee stage amendment can stand part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. So return to the entire page. On page 19 of the schedule to the bill.
Just one additional question, Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Sure.
This occurred to me. I think one of the presentations earlier, someone had mentioned something about the rollover policy coming within the civil service, and some work was being done in that regard. How is that progressing in terms, and when do they expect that policy could be finalized or probably implemented?
So in relation to that, member for Bodden Town West, I think that work is being developed under the Ministry of Border Control and Labor, even though there's a consultative process happening with the Office of the Deputy Governor. I think the Minister of Labor may have alluded to it earlier in the meeting, so I'll ask him maybe to give a general update. But since it doesn't really fall part of the schedule, I'd like to take the block vote on page
That's fine.
19.
You can take it. That's fine.
Thank you, sir. Colleagues, to take now page 19 of the schedule of the bill in order. I wish to put to the vote CIV1, policy advice to the head of the civil service of a decrease of 139,410. CIV7, workforce development within the civil service, a decreased amount of 92,906. CIV 15, policy advice and administrative support provided to the Deputy Governor, a decreased amount of 19,134. CIV 16, reports on educational standards and education-related matters, a decrease of 58,550. CIN 2, health insurance for civil service pensioners, an amount of 8,800,000. OE 19, ex gratia recipients plan payments, an amount of 577,500. And as agreed to add to the schedule to the bill, should I take it last? I'll call it now. The recently accepted committee stage amendment of OE 116, pension uplift, the amount of 160,280. And finally, EI 35, portfolio of the civil service, 310,000. All items called forming part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Thank you, colleagues. Deputy Governor, afford you the same latitude as the other members of the House. Would you like to thank any staff?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I would certainly like to thank colleagues within the portfolio of the civil service, including Acting Chief Officer Mr. Ryan Rajkumar Singh and the Acting Deputy Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Tara, who's here, as well as Ms. Nadisha Walters, our CFO, who's also been very hands-on in the preparation of our materials being considered today. So many thanks to them and all of the colleagues across our portfolio who do excellent work that make these outputs possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Deputy Governor. Colleagues, moving to page 20, appropriations to judicial administration. First item in the output groups, JAD1, administrative support to the judiciary. Are there any questions? Colleagues, may I propose a block vote of the entire page 20 to the schedule of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I have no issue with any of them. What I would like just to hear, get an update on the issue of the court facilities themselves. I know that they have now occupied the old Scotia building completely. And I know there are plans for further development, just like an update as to where these things are.
Mr. Chairman, and the AG answering, none of us are running to go to court unless you set up and you got to go there. But I can tell you, I just spent like 2 weeks there, and that is atrocious. How the setup is. It's brand new, but it is atrocious. The same court building you're talking about, yes, the downstairs one anyway, really needs some really work done there, AG. It's not good. Especially as I say, you go there and you have leg problems and back problems, you're in trouble. And you feel like you're in a well. I mean, I know they're trying to put you in jail, but you feel like you're in a well. The other thing is, since you're talking about court proceedings, the court system, how the sound. If somebody that don't have the acoustics and that whole, all of them, every one of them. You got judges, you got lawyers that talk easy. They're not like us here in the house where, you know, our voices are most times amplified, but especially the main courthouse here, the Grand Court and the Summary Court, you can't hear what anybody's saying. If you've got a little difficulty in hearing, right, especially when you're not guilty, yeah.
Thank you, member.
Seriously, Mr. Chairman, to AG through you, that needs some sort of PA system in there.
Thank you.
But Scotia building itself, the downstairs, needs some really looking over. As I said, it seems to be brand new, but boy, hard.
Thank you, member for Westbury West, and also
I'm not going back
Mr.
to
Leader.
I'm not planning that.
Welcome and good evening, Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, colleague. I have with me the acting court administrator, Ms. Matan. So I'm going to ask her to introduce herself and speak to some of the issues raised by my colleagues, but just to sort of set the stage, to say, as I understand it, certainly in respect of the Scotia building, it is a work in progress. It's a work in progress as it is being retrofitted. As you know, it was bank, and over the last couple of years, it is being retrofitted to make it more purpose-built for the judicial activity. And so I will ask her to expand on where we are as far as that particular project is concerned.
Acting Court Administrator, if I could ask you to state your name and pose for the record. And also, because this is a general update and doesn't really relate to the matters on the schedule of the bill, if you could be short and sharp. I allow it because I'm pretty sure if the Chief Justice is listening, she would appreciate the public receiving an update. So please proceed, ma'am.
Christina McTaggart, through you, Mr. Chair, Acting Court Administrator. I will say for the record, I am fairly new in the role, 7 months in, so I have inherited this project. I understand that throughout the process of the last 2 years, the actual general contractor, he died in the middle of the project. That did cause a big issue in terms of continuity and finishing the project, so we got it to the stage it could get to in time for the Privy Council to visit. Works are ongoing, and I, as many of you in here know, I'm a big dreamer, and I'm going to fix a lot of the issues, and we're moving towards digital courts and e-courts. So to Mr. Bush's point, we're going to have all brand new equipment very, very soon. We're going to be very, very ready to go and actually compete with other jurisdictions in the world. But give me a second, I just got here.
Well, first of all, let's take a moment to applaud you on your new appointment. It shows another succession throughout the civil service of a bright Caymanian. Colleagues, join me in a round of applause. So we will certainly hold you to moving mountains. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
so
sir.
Colleagues, if we can return to Schedule 20 of the schedule of the bill, I'll call out the items in turn. JAD 1, administrative support to the judiciary, the amount of $150,000. JAD 2, support for court proceedings, $600,000. OE 1, personal emoluments for the judiciary, $630,000. OE 4, judiciary expenses, $60,000. OE 43, depreciation of judicial executive assets, $285,000. EI 21, Judicial Administration in the amount of $450,000. And finally, EA 145 Courthouse, a decreased amount of $2,175,000. Colleagues, all those in favor of all of those said items to form part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Honorable, well, I'll wait till the next page. Turning, colleagues, to, I believe, is the final page of the schedule to the bill, page 21. We're nearly there. One small item, turning to the appropriations to Cabinet on behalf of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, OE 105. Are there any questions? Looks like none. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Sorry, Al. Mr. Chair, so sorry. I see OE 105 settlement of claims, 95,000. I'm not sure if anyone has information as to how many claims are outstanding and if 95,000. Oh, sorry. I am going forward.
You open that door because I right behind you now. So you might as well finish it because now my curiosity has been piqued.
Well, what I wanted to say is 95,000 with all I've seen and heard enough.
We almost had them. Honorable Attorney General.
I'm not so sure I understand the question, but in respect of this particular claim, the hope is that it is one matter that had to do with an extradition case where the person was ordered extradited by the magistrate and the Grand Court ruled that the extradition should not go ahead because of because of the person's ill health. And so he was discharged. You say he was better the next day? He was better the next day. Okay. But Mr. Chair and colleagues, so what happened is that, of course, as is usually the case in these things, the successful party recover their costs. And so this amount is to settle the outstanding balance on that cost, or was because it is dealt with already, and hence the reason for the 95,000. So this is the clarification as it relates to this amount. Ordered extradited, there was nothing wrong with the allegations as it relates to the extradition. He was wanted in the United States for trade fraud and other things in Texas. His colleagues pleaded guilty or were convicted. The summer court ordered him extradited, found that there was a basis, but he became ill and he went to court. He argued, among other things, that it would be oppressive to extradite him given his health issues. And the acting Grand Court judge agreed at the time. So that's it.
Thank you, AG. And am I correct in saying, just remind me, you have a very competent chief financial officer, don't you?
Certainly do. Certainly do.
Remind me the name.
Our CFO is Mrs. Sibanks.
Oh, my wife, sorry, conflict of interest. I'm sorry about that. I just clarifying for the record. If we could take the vote. No, sir. OE 105, settlement of claims. On a lighter moment, 95,000. That amount I wish to put to a vote. All those in favor of OE 105, settlement of claims, to form part of the schedule to the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, no. No. I have not voted. Thank you very much, colleagues. That concludes the schedule to the bill.
Thank you, sir. Thanks to the persons involved. Thank you very much.
Minister for Tourism. Colleagues, let's just confer with Madam Clerk for a moment. Thank you, colleagues, and listening in public for indulging that brief time that I conferred with Madam Clerk and the Honorable FS. Just to proceed and finish off the Finance Committee on the bill. In accordance with Standing Order 64-4, I shall put the question as to whether honorable members approve of the schedule forming part of the bill as amended by this committee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Colleagues, the schedule as amended by this committee shall stand part of the bill. Next, colleagues, we have to consider the clauses in the bill. In accordance with Standing Order 64-5, I shall put the question as to whether honorable members approve of Clause 1, standing part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Similarly, colleagues, I shall put the question on Clause 2 of the bill. The question is whether honorable members approve of Clause 2 standing part of the bill. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Clause 2 stands part of the bill. In accordance with Standing Order 64-7, I shall put the question as to whether I, as chair of the committee, do report the bill to the House. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The bill shall be reported to the House. Thank you, honorable members. I wish to thank all the ministers, parliamentary secretaries, chief officers, all the civil servants, public servants that provided answers to any questions raised, and to the honorable members of the opposition for all of their helpful questions. Next, we would move to the large committee room here at Parliament to review the Finance Committee report that will be prepared by the clerk. Once the process is complete, we would recommence the House. But I think in order to give the parliamentary staff time, we'd allow them to do that exercise tonight. We wouldn't return to the large committee room tonight. We would do that tomorrow. And I would propose then we would then return to the House and ask for an adjournment of the House for the evening. For an adjournment for the evening. So colleagues, I will adjourn this meeting of Finance Committee, which will then resume tomorrow morning in the large committee room at 10 a.m. 9? Everybody comfortable with 9 a.m.? Okay. Yeah? We'll get it done tonight. You get it done tonight? Thank you, colleagues. We're now consider this portion of the Finance Committee closed. Thank you. Good evening.